Welcome to the panel on what's next in immersive conservation storytelling. My name is Kat Cizek and my pronouns are she, her. And today I'm in Toronto, situated on the treaty land and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit and traditional territory of the Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Anishinaabe. This land is part of the territory protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant. I'm the artistic director of the co-creation studio at MIT Open Documentary Lab. And I'm super excited to be in conversation with an amazing batch of new XR storytellers that are launching projects this fall all around the world, online and in person. One is an augmented reality HoloLens experience, one's a VR experience, and one is a game. All bring us closer to specific animal worlds that are really closely connected to vast ecosystems. And in doing these stories, they reconnect us as audiences, but also as a species across these human-fueled disruptions that have threatened animal existence. I'm joined today by three amazing panelists. Amy Zimmerman is the producer and writer of the HoloLens experience and gallery installation Critical Distance. And you may also know her because she developed and co-founded Unity for Humanity. Lena Thiele is a co-creator and writer of the VR story Myriad, which is part of a larger story world that they created. Lim is the creator of the 2D game Samudra. We're all coming together from 4 very different time zones. So we're also talking about planetary connections, and we thought we'd locate ourselves in relation to specific migratory routes. Here in Toronto, out my window, I can currently see monarch butterflies as they prepare to travel across Lake Ontario to make their way to Mexico for the winter. And Amy, you're joining us from the Gulf Islands off the west coast of Canada. What migration route are you on?
Thank you, Kat. I love this idea of talking about migration. Yes, I'm on the traditional territory of the Coast Salish people, and we share our waters with the last remaining 74 southern resident orcas. And this is a remarkable, highly intelligent family that lives here in the Salish Sea. And that is what our project Critical Distance is all about. They face 3 major threats, one of them being noise pollution, and that's what our project addresses. And for the past couple of years, they've sort of disappeared from this area, and there's different reasons as to why that might be, whether it be food scarcity, vessel noise, or if they're following a new matriarch. But miraculously, 2 days ago, the southern residents have returned to the Salish Sea, so they're out there swimming behind me somewhere. And I'm super excited to report that 3 of them have been shown to be pregnant, which is huge for an endangered species pod. And so now is really the time to be telling this story. So we hope that we can get that number from 74 endangered orcas up to 77.
That's amazing. 3 pregnant orcas. Wonderful news. Lena, you're in a wood cabin outside of Berlin, and you're also, you've got quite the migrating species happening out your window. What's going on?
Yeah, thanks, Kat. Well, we were lucky that at the beginning of the project, that was right before the pandemic, we got this little wooden cabin, which was our hideaway for the last 2 years, more or less. And outside our window, we have around 80,000 cranes joining us at the moment, and they're on the way from Scandinavia to their wintering grounds in Northern Africa. So they are resting here for a while to gain more strength for their way down to the south. And for us, I mean, it was also a miracle because Myriad is a project about animal migration in the Anthropocene. So we are telling the stories about migrating animals and the human influence that they face along their long journeys around the globe. And for us, it's actually this feeling of, and that's also the background of the project Myriad, about this interconnected global system. And I mean, we're in the middle of it, and it's such an emotional experience every time the cranes arrive. And actually, you also wait for it and just hope that there will be, again, 80,000 who are arriving each year. So, yeah.
Thanks, Lena. And Lim, you're joining us from Jakarta. Which route are you on?
So yeah, first of all, hi Kat, hi Amy, and hi Lena. So it's a pleasure to be here. So currently I'm on the migration route of marine debris. So not to be grim or anything like that, but as you know, yeah, you might have heard of like the Great Garbage Patch, which is located in the Pacific Ocean. And where I am right now, we have been, there have been some studies on how some of the trash pollution is traveling from bigger cities, like from Jakarta, where I am right now, and ended up in places like small islands, unfortunately, like in Bali. So that's where I am.
Yeah, trash migrates, garbage migrates, and it's connected to the systems that make up our Earth. And it's very much related, it's central to your story. I want to set up your clips by asking you about the titles of your project. Let's go back to you, El. What is Samudra, and how does it connect to the overall arc of your gameplay?
Yes. So Samudra is based on an old ancient language called Sanskrit, right? So it is also a common language in India, Indonesia, some parts of Thailand, and many other places in the Asian region. And it literally translates to the body of water, or we can just refer to it as the ocean. It's a beautiful word, Samudra. And so that's what the game is all about. That's what our project is about. Of course, it's about the ocean. And essentially, in essence, it's about the story of this little kid who fell into the deep sea, all the way to the bottom of the deepest ocean. And it's simply just us guiding this character to find a way back out to the surface. But along the way, of course, you'll come across tons and tons of pollutions and consequences of human neglects. And these are all told in a very visual way in the game.
Let's roll that clip. Lena, what about the name of your piece, Myriad, Where We Connect? What's that?
Well, the project was about migrating animals in the Anthropocene, and it's on the other side a project at the intersection between art, science, and storytelling. So, at that interconnection, we also decided to use the word myriad. Myriad meaning endless and innumerable. So the whole motivation behind the project is to reposition us as human beings in an interconnected world. And the word myriad is also used, of course, in the whole climate discussion in the sense of myriad of problems and also of myriad of challenges that we're at the moment facing. So that's the one part. On the other part, it's the whole concept that we also use for our visual language of carbon as the basis for all life on Earth. This kind of myriad of connections of a world in constant flux of falling apart and reconnecting again. So this is the connecting part. That's where the name myriad comes from. That's the origin. And in the VR experience, we tell the story of 3 migrating animals across the globe.
Let's take a look.
Carbon, a connecting element in a perpetual dance of life and death, from the smallest particle to all living beings. Myriad, where we connect. An artistic experience and a poetic journey along the global paths of migrating animals. Follow these messengers on their long journeys each year, crossing high mountains and wide oceans, migrating with the wind and the currents, living through threats, trying to survive. Pressured systems, sensitive creatures. Perpetual motion of endless stories and timeless change. A globally interdependent system of life. Follow their long journeys and see the world through the eyes of many.
Amy, what about critical distance and the orcas? What does that mean?
So critical distance is actually an acoustic term. And Adam May and the team at Vision 3 who created the project, developed it and directed the project with me. They really wanted to play with the idea of sound. Sound is a huge theme within this project. And the visualization of sound, which is also what orcas do to echolocate, a series of clicks and echoes so that they can locate and hunt. And so sound is really integral to this piece and being able to visualize and interact with sound. So that's why they chose the name critical distance, excuse me. And however, it also has a really strong narrative and personal meaning as well, because it is critical that we keep our distance from these animals now more than ever, to give them a quiet space to communicate, to hunt, to breed, and just live here peacefully. So it really has two meanings within this project.
And the critical distance that we have in that AR experience too, getting to virtually get very close too. Let's see what that looks like.
The southern resident orcas are a very, very tight-knit family. If anyone has ever seen these orcas, it takes your breath away. It's a magical experience that is quite rare.
So echolocation is how the orcas see sound. Human impact through sound pollution has a devastating effect on the future of the southern resident orcas. It limits their ability to hunt and to communicate as a pod.
Once an apex predator like these orcas vanishes forever, the whole food web will unravel here. The ecosystem will inevitably unravel. The health of our oceans is really the health of us as a species as well. Critical distance is a location-based experience using HoloLens 2 technology, where you are immersed under the Salish Sea amongst the southern resident orcas.
We wanted to turn audiences from viewers into participants. We wanted to find a way to use technology to allow them to see under the ocean, to see the world in an entirely new way, and explore how noise pollution is affecting one of the most endangered species, and really give audiences the tools to make real change.
It really does take a village to put something like this together. Adam and Chris from Vision 3 brought their innovation, their way to tell really hard stories using bleeding edge technology.
The immersive world of critical distance is only made possible with HoloLens 2 because it allowed the audience to connect with each other. Adam, Amy and I were moved so much by this piece to help the orcas and help the ocean, and I really hope that it will provoke people to do the same, to get involved.
We want people to come away with an understanding that there is an urgent problem, but we have the tools and technology will give us the path to fix it.
I want audiences to come away with understanding and having a passion for this family, and that they're motivated and inspired to make change so that these holograms that we created aren't the last southern residents left.
Why have you all chosen XR as your form of storytelling instead of traditional modes? Lena?
Mirrored is a project, as you already said in the introduction, it contains a whole story world. So VR is one part in a larger world of the whole narrative. And the project actually has two main angles that reflect in the different formats. One is the emotional and the other is the informational, because we decided that when we are talking to different audiences, we want to also address them on different levels. And the VR, as you've seen in the trailer, addresses the audiences on the empathic and on the emotional side. So the three stories that we tell, we actually bring our audience into the world. And one thing that was also very important for us, because it's also about reposition us humans in our natural world and recreate different relationships, is that at the beginning you're in this and the landscape, and you're not actually addressed as a human. But at the end of the VR experience, you get your body. So you as a human will also be part of the whole world. And that was something where we felt A, the poetic, B, the emotional, and C, this embodiment of the user in the world was a decision for VR as one major component in the overall project concept.
Amazing. Putting yourself directly in the story as a user. It's great. Amy, what about you? Why not a traditional documentary about orcas? Why AR?
Well, I came from the film industry originally, but my trajectory has really made me really fascinated and excited and curious about what tech, in particular the situation XR, can do for environmental conservation. And so that's what originally sparked the idea of like, well, what if we use XR for this and to tell this story? And it really is, I think, the only medium that really can do this story justice, particularly because we're dealing with the visualization of sound. And then the team at Vision 3, who are so creative and really using bleeding edge technology to tell different conservation stories, they came to the project and brought this idea of creating not only an immersive experience, because you're literally under the water with these orcas, but also an immersive interactive experience where you can touch the orcas, you're swimming with them, and the salmon are interacting with you as well. And that's just the only XR can really give us that experience. And so as well, for myself, this is the first time that I've been able to swim with the southern resident orcas. I mean, that's something you can't do in the real world. And it gives audiences this opportunity to be face to face with these whales. And I mean, that again, that's just, the power of XR and a really exciting way to work, really exciting technology to be able to play around with and be creative with. And also, I can't help but imagine what XR can do for the future of the way we interact with animals and the way that we learn from them, we interact with them, and that we can explore them. And so I'm just really excited to see where this tech is going to allow us to go to minimize our impact on animals by using such things such as XR.
It's amazing. Elle, why a game for you?
Yeah, I would just like to echo what Amy already said, and Lena as well, especially with VR, which is basically a storytelling ultimate empathy machine, right? So, and with that, yeah, we set out in our studio as well. We set out to have a very visually impactful and memorable way to tell a story. And I think XR is just, the natural way to achieve that immersion for us. And so we kind of like designed this whole game, with the design idea that we are not using any spoken language at all. Everything will be told throughout visual and audio cue. And this is so that I think audience from different ages group, like adults or kids, they can play together, and even from different kind of language background, they can tune in and just kind of understand it, almost like watching a cartoon, right? But with a very heavy, so it's a like lighthearted kind of delivery, but with a very heavy message. I think the phrase that I like to use all the time is just out of sight, out of mind. So I think, again, echoing Amy and Lena here, I think what we're all trying to achieve is just taking the audience and dropping them right into the situation, right? So in my case, literally the first chapter of the game is called A Drop in the Ocean, because that's what we're doing. We're taking you there, letting you experience all these beautiful things about the ocean, but most importantly, the pollutions that are also present in this post-apocalyptic world of Samudra, right? All the consequences of human neglects, all the remnants that you can see there. Just to kind of like make you think about what are we doing right now? What are the things that, are we too late? Is this gonna be our future too? Things like that. And hopefully that will kind of like kick you off into a state where, like myself, will be pushed into actually doing an action, right? To kind of do something about it. So I think that's kind of like why, I think that it's just natural for us to go with XR.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're using the technology to bring your audiences to places that are out of sight, but you're also going to where your audiences are, Elle, as games being such an important cultural engine of our times.
Mm-hmm.
And all your projects are really very heavily co-created, and that's some personal interest of mine as at the co-creation studio at MIT, where we talk about co-creation a lot in terms of technology, collective authorship within communities, across disciplines and sectors, but even with non-human systems. And all of you profoundly exemplify this kind of work. Can you talk about co-creation in yours, Lena?
Yes, sure. First of all, I must say I'm so much looking forward to look at your work, like both of you, Amy and Elle. It sounds so interesting. So I'm quite excited about that. And looking forward to other projects with co-creation on different levels. In our project, we had a co-creation, of course, with a lot of scientists that we work with. So we have, as one huge institute, for example, the Max Planck Institute of Animal Behavior integrated in the project, which for us was very interesting because we dive deep into the scientific studies. We work with a lot of data. On the other hand, we work with creative technologists and we work with artists really in the studio, and to bring together those completely different disciplines to create a common language and always to create a vision for the project that everybody could follow. And so it was about this really high level scientific studies up to really talking to individual scientists and their individual studies, even bringing them in for the behavior and the movement of the different animals. And that was actually one of the nicest compliments of one of the scientists when we got the bald ibis, which is, as you see, one of our animals, when he said, now I can really feel my birds. And he actually brings up those birds and flies with them over the Alps. And the moment where he said to the animated bird, I can feel my birds I'm living with and sharing each day. That was one of the biggest compliments, and that's the basis for the whole project. Yes.
That's amazing. Elle, who are you co-creating with?
Yeah, we've been collaborating quite closely here with the local activists, environmental activists. So there are different foundations and non-governmental organizations here in Jakarta, Bali, all over Indonesia, and just last year actually. So we have achieved a milestone where we successfully pushed for a plastic bag ban finally in Jakarta. And we did that. Not, of course, I am not taking credit for any of this on my own. This is all like to do with all the different people, all the different activists that's been working on this very hard for many years. But I was just lucky enough to be this silly artist that stumbles upon the project and got invited to help them create a symbol. So this is back in 2019, where I was part of this parade, and we made this huge symbol of a plastic monster, of course, out of plastic that we found that we all gathered in the nearby islands called the Thousand Islands. And so we created the symbol that represents, I believe it's 100 tons of plastic waste that we produce every single hour, not day, it's hour. And in Jakarta alone, it's not even Indonesia, it's in Jakarta alone, 100 tons. So that's what the symbol is representing. Of course, it's not possible to have 100 tons, so it's just a symbol, right? But we paraded this with, at the time, currently she's already retired, but Susi Pujasuti, who was the Minister of Maritime Affairs and Fisheries. So she spearheaded this movement with like thousands of people at the time, more than 50 NGOs marched alongside with all of us. And that directly resulted in the petition being approved by the governor at the time. So, and that took place last year, 2020 in July. And just recently we received the milestones that across Jakarta, we have finally seen the statistic that our plastic bag has gone down by 80% in 3 areas, in retails, specifically in supermarket, in convenience stores, and in wet market as well. So that's like it's a small step, but it's a big, huge win for us, right? So we did something, we made an impact, and we want to keep this rolling. And this is what the collaboration is all about for us.
You're deeply embedded in movements on the ground, in the ocean, but also it sounds like with some pretty high level politicians. So that's a pretty incredible place for an artist to be doing cutting edge work. So that's amazing.
But I don't do politics, so
yeah, I know you don't do it, but you're embedded in that ecosystem, which is amazing. Yeah. And Amy, you too, you've got local and global approach to your work.
Yes, we do. But what an inspirational story. I'm very familiar with your project, and I hope that my project can have just somewhat of the impact that yours does, and your team as well. So congrats on that. That's something to aim for. You're setting the bar really high. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you, Amy.
But yes, co-creation, that's what made this project come alive. And as you mentioned, we have engaged with global partners down to local communities to really tell this story. In terms of global, we have the Smithsonian, where the exhibit is housed, who've been amazing partners. Microsoft, whose endless passion towards this subject has just really made this project what it is. We are working with Parley for the Oceans and Vulcan, and all of these people have come together who are all passionate about saving these orcas and our ocean health to create these, global partnerships. But what's really at the heart and soul of this are the community partnerships as well, and the community connections. So we work closely with the First Nations communities here, and this is really their story. The orcas are their relations, their family under the waves. So the orca's story is really their story as well. So we've engaged with specifically the Tsartlip, the Thiele, and the Lummi nations to help tell this story and develop the exhibit around the installation. And of course, worked with local biologists, universities, NGOs, researchers, and then there's Vision 3 with a team in the UK and me here on the ground, at ground zero with the orcas, and developing this project and making sure it's accurate and that we're capturing all these voices from across across the continent and another ocean. So co-creation is really at the heart and soul of this. It took a village to build this project. And ultimately, it took this village to tell this story appropriately and accurately and correctly.
Just coming down to our last question quickly, what do you hope people will do once they've seen your story, when they take off that headset? Lena.
I hope for, of course, to make them more sensitive, and to reach them, especially for the VR project, on an emotional level, because as I said, the whole project is about creating a new relationship and to reposition our humans in our natural environment, because we strongly believe that is necessary also to create alternative futures as a basis. And as we also have the installation as part of it, I think this is also something that we want to achieve, that people really also dig deeper into their own impact and understand it all on a global scale. What we also add is that we also work, especially with regards to the immersive installation, with actual citizen science projects that, based on where the installation is also traveling, it's also connected to regional and local projects, also to local communities and to local science partners, up until workshops that really can take place in the museum. So that is actually the link between then the VR and the scientific part, and then moving into actual action and hopefully also impact. So that's the aim for the project. We're still working on it, so keeping us crossed.
Sounds like a good start. Elle, when your gamers get their little kid up to the surface of the ocean and complete your game, what do you want them to do?
I want them to be, first of all, I think, to reflect, right? To reflect and kind of to echo what Lena just said, to kind of be more mindful about their surrounding, just to be more aware and then take action after that. We are certainly not a data-driven studio or company. We're emotionally driven, in fact, right? But we do have, like, as I've explained before, we collaborated with different activists to have a credible base on what we want to tell, what kind of story we want to tell. And so everything that we do from our project, not just a mudra, but our workshops, our art installations, anything, the profits that we get will channel back into the collaborations that we do with all of these activists. So yeah, there will be, if you can support this project, that will be great. Or you just go out there and do your own thing. I'm just a gamer, but I can be involved in this type of parades. For me, it's a dream, right? Like, it's just an unforgettable experience. So
and I understand that some of the financing is going back into the movement as well.
for sure. Yeah.
That's amazing. Amy, quick last word to you.
I couldn't have said it better than these two. I think we all have similar goals with our projects, but ultimately, in my case, my hope is that we create a more quiet, healthy ecosystem so that these 74 orcas become 77 and then 100, and then we have a healthy population and a healthy food source and ultimately a healthy ocean. So, and that can be done through all these calls to action when you exit the experience. So, but
more pregnant orcas.
More pregnant orcas.
That's all the time we've got. I want to just extend a huge thanks to all the panelists today, Amy, Lena, and Elle, of brilliant projects. A special thank you to Unity's Marina Saros, Precious Aka, and check out this incredible work that's going to be migrating around the world. Myriad had its world premiere at Venice and is going to be opening at a European museum, undisclosed for now, but soon. And Critical Distance, Amy's project, will be at the Smithsonian, having launched at the Tribeca Film Festival. And Elle's project, Samudra, is now available in Steam. Thanks for watching.